I've seen images and pictures that just in the streets of Denver, you have camps just laid out there in multiple areas in Denver itself. I mean, how bad has it gotten when you drive like from your greener side to the shithole Denver?
It was like that before the illegals came on the buses, Jay. We had a homeless problem.
Whoa. You can't say illegals around here.
Yeah, you say illegal aliens.
I'm going to call them illegals, okay?
Illegal aliens. They're illegal.
They're not sending the best. But it's true, unfortunately. You know, we have a lot of remarkable legal immigrants here. They've opened up many restaurants. Most of them are Mexican, and they come up here and are hard workers. They contribute to the community. They pay taxes. And they came here the right way. And these are the people that I really feel for. My mom was an immigrant. She came here as a little 2-year-old baby in 1950 with her mom, and they were granted asylum from a communist nation, Yugoslavia. And as a precondition of my grandmother coming over here, she had to have a sponsor. That was her aunt in South Detroit, where Journey sings about. She had to have a job lined up. She got that. There you go. Right? She got that job with her aunt. She had, again, my baby mother there, and she had to become a citizen. And she did all those things. And she worked for many years on the assembly line for Detroit Diesel and General Motors. You know, there are hardworking immigrants here. I want to make that clear. But the immigrants that are coming here illegally, they're coming here illegally for a reason. And they don't have anything to offer, and they don't speak English. They don't have any skills per se. And that's what we're looking at in this group here. They're just coming here for a free handout. And now Sophie's choice that Denver has is, well, do we keep having to fund these illegals that are just pouring in, again, busload after busload, or do we help our own homeless, which, to your point, Jay, was already a problem in these tent villages all over the city of Denver and spilling over into Aurora next door. And it's just gotten worse.
Is 46 million needed? Was it needed for the first House 1,000 goal?
So we are looking at actuals of $75 million.
What did that mean,
Of
Jay?
course.
What'd you mean?
You know who she looks like? She looks like that general from Star Wars.
Megan Rapinoe?
I don't think that's the general from Star Wars.
No,
She is now.
She is now.
It's a simple question, really, or at least we think so. How much is the mayor's House 1000 homelessness initiative costing? We thought we'd find out at this presentation, titled House 1000 Financials. We didn't.
Our actual expenses in 2023 came in much lower than we had anticipated. Only 10.3 million were spent in 2023.
$10.3 million is the only real number the mayor's office can give for how much money has been spent so far. But we know more than $110 million has already been approved by city council. So where's all the money going?
Literally 10% of the budget that they were allowed.
Right. That doesn't make any sense that they're only like in California, for instance.
Okay.
I was dating this Asian girl from Berkeley.
You didn't even have to tell me
what
type of girl it was. I already automatically knew it was Asian.
And she was from Berkeley.
Okay.
And of course I'm trying to get in there and all that kind of stuff. And it's the
Get
first
into
time.
Berkeley?
Huh? No.
It's a tough school to get into, Jay.
Not into Berkeley. So we went as a date idea. She wanted to go to a talk in UCLA over homelessness that was happening in there.
Wow,
So
look at you, Jay, the bleeding heart liberal to try to get some trim.
The most insane thing I was listening to when we were sitting there to talk about the homeless problem in California and in LA.
Hold on, what year was this?
I want to say like 2018.
Okay, so actually not too long ago, 6 years ago.
We went to it and they were talking about how the homeless problem in California in LA itself is split between 5 different departments with their own budgets.
What?
Yes. I'm not even kidding. They were talking about their own budgets and they're talking about how much they were spending. And then they were talking about how we were lucky that the increase wasn't as much as they were expecting year over year on homelessness. They were spending anywhere between $200 and $250 million a year on this.
Wow.
And they were talking about how it was amazing that for one homeless person, they're spending $5,000 a month for one homeless person in California, in LA.
I might as well pack up and move to California and become homeless.
I wasn't getting paid $5,000 $5,000
why did you become
to be homeless. I should have.
You should have.
And I'm brown, and my name is Mujahed.
Yeah.
It would have
That's a triple whammy.
well. When we were there, I was asking them questions because they had a Q&A at the end of it.
Of course you did.
So I was asking them questions. So I was like, so we're raising the budget and the homelessness is becoming worse. Why are you celebrating this? And then she's like, sit the fuck down. And they couldn't answer it like properly, because they're just wanting to say like, well, at least it's not as much as we were anticipating.
Right.
At least it's not as much. And then
Like, they
I'm
set the
like,
bar
so
so
what is the
low.
program? What is the program to get them off the street instead of just paying $5,000 every month for these people? Like, what are we doing to get them off the streets? Because I didn't hear anything
There's no solution
about getting them off the streets. The only thing they were talking about was like, oh, they're getting food from here, and oh, they're getting these type of tents, and oh, they're living their best lives, getting raped and murdered on the streets of LA. It's so sad, and it's probably the same story in Denver, because you have some reporters.
Let's get to that.
You have some reporters in LA that were actually who cared enough to talk to the homeless people, especially homeless women. And not one of them that they interviewed has said that they were not raped, that they didn't have some kind of STD over the course of being on the street. It is a horror story for all of these people. It is inhumane to keep them on the streets and just clap and say, oh, we're spending taxpayer money, not fixing anything.
The story that Next has been telling you about for days now has the attention of other cameras. Today, we also learned the vast majority of people exiting House 1000 shelters are leaving to be homeless again, go to jail, or even dying.
Do we have an idea of why we are seeing that 73% of the people who are exiting into a negative outcome?
So just want to start with talking about outcomes. We and our partners don't count deceased as a negative outcome. There are many reasons why people could...
I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that.
Of the roughly 1,000 people who moved into hotels or micro-communities after living on the streets, the city's dashboard says only 21 have left with leases of their own for permanent housing.
Death is not a negative outcome, Ryan. So hold on. What's worse than death, Ryan?
Maybe what Jay was talking about. I mean, seriously, think about it. That might be how these wacko leftists look at this. So rather than get raped and get STDs like Jay's talking about, well, they just died and checked out, and that was a better outcome. I mean, that's the only way I can figure that, right? She stood there, you saw it, with a straight face and just delivered that. Like, well, we don't consider deceased a negative outcome. And even that council member with the Megan Rapinoe hair was like, oh, come on, no, I'm not buying that. But they were trying to sell that. I mean, that's what you get, guys, when at the Denver City Council, what you just watched there, it's a total echo chamber. It's all liberals. Some are further left than others. They don't think to question one another. They never heard a dissenting view in their lives. And then they stand up and deliver that kind of line. And it's as outlandish as it sounds. But to your point, Siraj, I think death might be a preferable outcome to the stuff Jay described, which is happening here in Denver too.
I mean, I'd much rather be dead in Florida than alive in Colorado.
The divide in Colorado, I don't know if you can replicate it anywhere in the country. You've got Martina Navratilova living up in the mountains of Aspen and a whole bunch of other celebrities too. And that's what Jay's talking about, these mountain resort towns. They're totally detached from the reality of what we're dealing with here in the city of Denver. Then you have the Denver and Boulder liberals. It's like a diagonal kind of line drawn between the campus of University of Colorado, which is basically communist, in Boulder, and then the city of Denver, which again, it has brought in a mayor in Mike Johnston that was even worse than the last one. And it's all these, this happy horse shit of we're going to make things better. We're just going to spend money. And you heard these city council members there, well, we're spending all this money. What are we getting for our investment? You get nothing for it. They're just pouring it down the shitter, and they're not making these people's lives better. You heard that, like only, what was it, a dozen or so people came out of this experience and had a lease of their own to move on with their lives. This needs to be a hand up, not a hand out. But these people are damaged. They need help. I have compassion for these people. They have drug addictions. They have mental illness. Some of them have both. And they're not able to get back on their own feet. But if you're just throwing money at the problem, here's what they did, guys. This is so cynical and it's so dark. Mayor Mike Johnston had a deadline of like Christmas last year. He was going to get 1,000 homeless housed. Well, there's a trick to that. They could only stay there for like 2 weeks, for 14 days. And then they were churned out. And they were just clicking a clicker. We got 1, we got 11, we got 37, all the way up till they got to 1,000. And got to 1,000. They didn't do anything for these people. They got housing for, like I said, 14 days. And in some cases, they're taking out these hotel rooms. Those hotels are then getting money from the state, our taxpayer dollars. They're displacing people that were maybe living in those hotels long term who were actually working and trying to make ends meet. Kick them out. just to get these numbers churned through for a political score. That's all this was.
Now, Mike Johnson, he's not the mayor who actually served under or during the COVID lockdowns. That was actually, I was thinking it was Johnson, but it was actually Michael Hancock. A lot of Michaels happening.
Yeah, that's true.
If you actually remember, Michael Hancock, he urged Denver residents to stay home during COVID lockdowns, and then went ahead and flew cross country to see family. So I'm not saying that this is like, Johnston is different from Hancock, but it's cut from the same cloth. Like, these are the hypocrites that basically will say, Republicans all want to ban illegals because they're inhumane and they're fascists and they don't want, they just hate brown people. But at the same time, like, the only ones who are offering any solutions to literally any of these problems are getting shot down. And Ryan, like, do you ever think people are going to wake up to what's happening in terms of they just keep, like, especially in cities like Denver, but like blue cities around the country, do you think they'll ever just wake up and be like, what have we been voting for this entire time?
I think there's a little bit of that. It's not enough yet. But if you look at Chicago in particular, that city, they're turning on the Democratic Party. There are Black urban people who have voted Democrat their whole life. I just saw one, and she seemed like a very sweet woman who went to her first Trump rally, and she's all about it, and they're treating her great, and they're welcoming her in, but they're out of alternatives. They're out of answers. And that's a great point that you make, Siraj, because this is damaging the services, the funding for inner city, urban dwellers, those that rely on, the recreation centers for kids to go play ball. They're being kicked out so they could just literally put homeless migrants in there to stay. They don't have any solutions. That's a great point that you make too. And it's only because Ron DeSantis shipped some of them to Martha's Vineyard. And you remember the woman with like the straw hat and the Jackie O sunglasses and the tear down her cheek, just one tear, not two. They weren't worth two, just one tear. And she's clapping for them as they got on a bus from Martha's Vineyard and shipped them the hell out to Cape Cod. These people with the lawn signs, in this house, no human is illegal. They are full of shit. They're virtue signaling frauds. They had no intention of caring about these people. And that means literally doing the work. They don't want to do the work, Siraj. They want to throw up a sign. They want to write a check. They want to make the problem just kind of go away, but it doesn't go away when it's on their doorstep. And that's what's happening here in Denver. And all these cities, I think they are finding out the hard way. And it's a little slow. They're not coming around too quickly, that their Democrat leaders have no answers for this. And it's only going to get worse.